in-depth race recaps.
He's shown speed, he's shown dominance at other racetracks.
Pit stops and strategy.
Hell yeah, boys. Let's go. Race strategy, man.
Fantasy racing insights.
Talking about being a team in the summer. We did it. Good job, boys.
Your weekly home for everything Ryan Blaney and Team 12.
Good job, Timmy. Here's to many more, fellas. Thank you.
This is the Team Blaney podcast.
Let's go race for a championship.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 182 of the Team Blaney podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and alongside me is co-host Steve Mez. This week, we are here to break down Ryan Blaney's brief run in the Jack Links 500 at Talladega Superspeedway. Steve, welcome back to another episode of the show. I'm glad to be here after we had a nice and refreshing week off. I'm glad to be here after battling a little bit of Atlanta traffic on my way home from Talladega this morning, but it was smooth sailing all the way down to Florida. One rainstorm, and I would like to point out it did not rain while we were at the Speedway. It rained, I think, Friday night before we actually got there, but we did not bring the rain, but we did hit some rain on our way home. So, it was a great weekend experience, I will say. Got to meet up with a lot of people, meet some new people, but and then there was a race. So a couple of races. We went to both.
I was going to say, thankfully you were there to do some other things, so we have other stuff to talk about today. Or this would be a really short podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is an opportunity for us to get into what a lot of the shows we'll talk about yet again: the style of racing now in the next gen car. Cautions on the last lap in the Xfinity race, how fuel saving has evolved a little bit, though is still very similar to what it was. Lack of cautions in the Cup race. I mean, the weekend experience overall. So,
post race penalties. Cletus with the top 10 at Talladega.
Yeah, the Cletus stuff was fun because I should have uploaded those pictures. But if you followed Cletus McFarland this week, he and his friends were doing this like motorhome challenge where all three of them went and found like the best money or the best running motorhome they could find for $5,000, and they had to make it from North Carolina all the way to Talladega, and they raced them on a dirt track. I think they may have done some drag racing stuff. They ran it down that road in North Carolina called Tail of the Dragon, which is like this big winding road.
Oh, they went Tail of the Dragon. Oh, wow.
And then they got it all the way to Alabama, and they parked them at the entrance of the boulevard. And we got to go down there and get some pictures and meet Cletus like real quick. And so that was a lot of fun too. So I think I shared those photos on the Team Blaney. It's probably gone by now, but I think a story on our Team Blaney Facebook page that people saw. But he called it the Dega Bega, and if you know Cletus, you can imagine how he actually said that. So, I mean,
Biffle's like his best friend now too, right? Like him and the Biff.
Greg Biffle was there, yeah. So Greg Biffle was in one of the other RVs that went down there. They met up during the hurricane relief. They were both flying helicopters. That's actually the first time they ever met. So they've been great friends. And he was on the pit box for him, I think, at the ARCA race. He's kind of been coaching him up on the driving side of things, even though for the most part, he doesn't seem like he's going to get real serious about being a driver, but he's got 2 races under his belt now. And he actually ran that ARCA race down a cylinder.
But hung with the pack, was able to stay with it, and by the end of the whole thing was in the pack enough to avoid everybody and get the top 10. So that was actually something that older drivers figure out how to do. So he he was having good help from on the box, or and good job getting it up there.
So we did some more fun stuff during the weekend. I wanted to ask your opinion on, do we want to save the fun stuff for after the quick race recap just to bring us back up a little bit, or do we want to
let's do the recap. Let's get this get the Band-Aid and just rip it off, real quick, and then we'll have lots of cool fun stuff to talk about afterward. Let's just do that. Let's recap the weekend at Talladega. Starting with the qualifying. That's it. No practice. What do we need practice for? Practice is just crash a car if you really. So they start off with qualifying, and Ryan went out like 35th, which was fine. These things are so arbitrary depending on if the wind is blowing down the backstretch when you go out there, or
Yeah.
the sun comes out and you lose a little bit of grip and all those different things. But he put up a lap that was P4 overall. And I thought, well, that's super. Now they got this whole top 10. They're going to run for the pole again. And the 38 in the first set was way faster than everybody else. I say way faster. I mean, it's only a tenth or whatever, but it was a gap between him and the second and third cars. So it was all a matter then at that point of when they go back out, how much temperature they get back into the car versus, how warm the fluids are and so on and so forth. But Ryan goes back out, and there are weepers the coming off pit road, going up onto the banking, and these guys are all trying to launch. They have to stop at the end of pit road for a NASCAR official. It's like they call it a brake check. And at that point, when the official tells them they can go, he waits till they're at a dead stop, and then he lets them take off. When they take off, they punch it, and they try to get it up into the gears as quickly as possible, smoothly as possible, up against the wall. But the thing is Ryan runs across these weepers, and you can watch the back end of the car kind of like wiggle just a little bit, and
Yeah.
they said about a mile-an-hour difference. And to tell you the truth, a mile-an-hour difference, he ends up P9, could have been P4 or 3. I mean, we're only speculating, but that launch is everything on these single laps like this.
And the
Um,
weepers are there, and I mentioned it a little bit about the rain. There was a massive rain thunderstorm that came through Friday night. It actually canceled like they canceled like the second round of Xfinity qualifying. I think ARCA qualifying was washed out, and then like all the festivities at night in the infield were canceled too. So it hit right around the time we got to our hotel. So big storm, and yeah, it dropped a lot of water. And I'm not surprised that there was some issues with it coming back up through those cracks on the track.
Saturday, I guess Saturday, as the day went on, they disappeared. But then somebody said Sunday they were there again, that the water had come back up Sunday, and I think I heard that on Bubba's radio later in the race, actually, that they warned him that coming off pit road to not go in that area coming off pit road if they could help it. So yeah, he ends up P9. Zane does get the pole. He puts up another huge lap, and the front row people know what to do to put the cars out in front. Qualifying at Dega.
Yeah, and I made the joke to you. I don't know whether it's a joke, pointing out the fact that because it's not a funny situation, but Ryan Flores saying last week, Ryan's former front tire changer,
Yeah,
going over to the 38 car where the pressure was going to be off, and I'm like, here we go, right out of the gate, his new driver sits on the pole. So
I was gonna message him and I didn't. I love Malone. But I was gonna message him. Hey, what's it like to be in pit stall 1? 'Cause that doesn't happen very often, right? So also in the top 10, just the 22 car ends up P3, the 2 car ends up P7, and then the 21 ends up P8. So all the guys from the Penske shop in the top 10, and I figure that's gonna be good to start the race too. So we get to Sunday with race day, and stages of 60, 120, and 80, 188, 7 sets of tires, and I don't know if anybody used more than 3. Um, and I have fuel run question mark because nobody really put anything, like Bob didn't, and Bob usually puts it on there, so you know what to look for, but he didn't really put it out there. These guys are going to be doing some fuel saving. Um, Pit stall 30, and this was kind of cool because it had the 62 was going to be pitting in front of him, and then behind him was an opening, and then an empty stall behind that opening. So as far as like turning in and hitting the gas man correctly at the right point, they were going to have no problem with that little turn, and hopefully no problem getting out too, depending on where the 62 would fit around them. And the 62 during a green flag cycle, I didn't think would be anywhere near them because they're different manufacturers. To the rear was the 44 Yaley for some adjustments pre-race. Roger was there on the radios, um, and they, at the start here, he's got the 2 in front of him and the 20 behind him. The 38 decides to start from the bottom row. Figure that's pretty good. It doesn't really matter too much, but your line might move a little faster right off the bat, at least. By lap 2, we're 3 wide and we're on the inside lane. And then by lap 4, it's 4 wide in the low lane in the third row, about 14th position because we're 4 wide. And that's only 3 or 4 rows back. But, at lap 5, the 22 is taking the lead at this point. At lap 7, 4 wide still on the bottom in P21 here. And the 71 and 38 are out front swapping the lead now. So our buddy Michael has made his way to the front too, and he's battling with Zane back and forth as they try to lead a couple of lanes. Lap 10 here, we're 4 wide bottom. It's P25 now. It seems like it's faded a little bit. But the 71, the 38, the 22, the 21 are all up there leading lanes. So it's, and it's just kind of back and forth there on the lead changes. They don't count the lead change until they actually make it back to the start finish. So lap 11 here, 4x4 up to 19th here. And kind of like, the low lane is kind of moving up a little bit here, but the 22 and the 21 are swapping the lead on the 2 inside lanes. So their lanes are moving a little better than the outside. Lap 14, the 60 gets to the lead, and we're P27 in this 4 wide at this point. We're pushing the 2 car though, so we're behind a teammate the whole time, pretty much. Lap 15, it starts to sort out to 3 wide again, and first 6 rows basically. Then behind it, it's still 4 wide stacked up. So at lap 20 here, bottom of 4, P20, the 38, 60, 71 are all swapping the lead out front here. At lap 22, the 8 leads the low lane. And then a lap later, the 77 moves in front of Ryan. The 77 does this little like it fakes like he's gonna, and he kind of like gets Brian to kind of back off just a hair. And then he goes ahead and takes the spot in front of Ryan because he knows where he wants to be. He wants to be on the nose of the 12 because he knows the 12's going places. Lap 25 here, the 2 outside lines kind of fade back a little bit. So now we're up to 14th and our lane has moved up a little bit. The 8 is up there now and with the 38, and they're kind of swapping the lead. The lap 26 here, 3 wide bottom, and then it turns into 4 wide bottom and up to 31st now. So once it gets spread out again, your lane moves back a little bit, and then boom, you're 31st, and yet you're really not that far from the front. Lap 28, he decides to kind of go to the high lane now because he's all the way in the back. He's 38th out of 39, and he kind of goes to the high lane, sees what happened. And by lap 31 here, we're back to the bottom here, pushing 77 again up to 30th. The first 10 cars have single filed out for a lap or 2 here, though, too. So the field is 2 wide in another lap after that. And then at lap 33, the top 6 are all Toyotas. They've circled their way to the front and sorted themselves out. The 19, the 20, the 11, 23, 35, 45. At lap 36, Ryan goes middle now. And, kind of like, it's kind of scary when you're looking at through the max camera, And at lap 38 here, Jonathan says we're going code red. And I kind of got a question mark if it's pitting soon or if there's like a thing about what they're going to do when this code red means, but they're up to P27 here. At lap 41, some Chevys and Toyotas start to pit. Now, it's not always like one group. It's really kind of weird how these kind of broke off. And I think it dealt more than anything else with being in position to pit, although some guys will pit from that second lane if they know that the guy on the inside of them is coming down too, At lap 42, the 41 leads, and Ryan gets to the low lane up to 22nd here. Lap 44, we get this caution, right? And
Can I just say that I think last week, or no, we did a live in the middle of the week, and I said I'm going to be really happy with this race if I get to see some green flag pit stops, because I always hate it when there's so many cautions and stuff. We kind of lose that because it's an exciting thing watching these teams kind of get down and get off pit road, get to pit road. The one thing I will mention before you kind of analyze this that I noticed, maybe this has been happening a lot. Not everybody was getting down and slowing down off the racing surface. A lot of people were slowing down on the racing surface before getting to pit road, and I don't know if that contributed to anything that happens here, but It's just something that I noticed. There seems like a lot of indecisive people that suddenly want to go with a group that maybe they weren't going to go with. But
That's what's really weird about the situation is like does not look like these cars that end up wrecking each other were anywhere going toward pit lane. All the discussion is whether or not they were about to pit, and they were like, "Yeah, he was trying to pit, and he didn't wave, and he didn't know that he was going to pit, and he was trying to pit from above him, and all these different things." But when you look at where the accident happens, it happens after the opening to pit road, and most of these guys, most of the time, like you said, they're coming down off the banking and slowing it up, a couple hundred yards before that, So really, that's what looked so discombobulated about the whole situation. And then we have the 6 car and the 8 car both kind of hang a right of all things. The 8 bounces into the 48 on his outside, and then as he bounces back down into the 6, which knocks the 6 down across the track, right into Ryan's right rear. And on TikTok, I've got a picture of the car behind me.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, first off, on the Max app, if any of you are watching Max, listening to the in-car audio, please understand they are not totally synced up. Okay? They're not. They're off by about a second to 2 seconds sometimes, as far as the audio and the visual. So when you're hearing it, it's not exact. So if you hear him say something and then the reaction, it already happened, that's why. Okay, so some online things happen like after this, and we get online and we, kind of get a little messed up with kind of people's reactions because we're as mad as anybody else. But Tim told him to go low because that's where the hole was, and actually Tim was only telling him as Ryan was already doing it. So as far as this, like if the spotter put him in a bad position or whatnot, no, the spotter didn't do anything wrong, and the driver was doing everything out the front of his windshield. So he did everything he could to avoid this. Now, the TV broadcast, for those, I had to go back and listen to this too, because I was trying to figure out why people were saying, why didn't you fix it? Why didn't you fix it? Why didn't you fix it? Well, Clint Boyer from a half a mile away can see everything. And he says, oh, it's just a toe link. They should be able to fix that. Quickly says that. Well, the car is still spinning in the grass, and trying to get out and trying to get a push. And meanwhile, I'm watching the Max camera. They've got the in-car. They've got the showing Ryan on the inside going like this. Okay, he's trying to get a push. He's talked to Tim. Tim's already gotten to a NASCAR official. They're trying to tell him, if we just get out of the grass, which is what happens. They do get him out of the grass. He goes back and around to pit road, and they were going automatically to the garage, to the garage for the damage policy.
Yeah, because even if it was just a toe link, they can't repair that on pit road anymore. All of that has to be done behind the wall. Yep.
Right. Now, once it's in there, they're only in underneath there. I can't, all the cameras. Here's the best part about the weekend on cameras for them too. They have the Fox coverage of cameras. They do not have the through the windshield camera that most everybody gets. There's 3 or 4 cars Fox picks every week and puts multiple cameras on the car. Well, they were one of those cars. So there were different camera angles of things going on, and the director is in charge of those. Even though they're not showing the car on TV, he can still swap them out. And there were different points in times where they were in the garage. They showed a couple things. Showed, open the hood, see what's going on there. Well, most everybody was in the back right rear, and they were down there no more than 5 minutes. And you heard, "Are we done? We're done. We're done. Go ahead, get out. We're done." So, whatever was damaged was more than a toe link. Was something that obviously was not allowed to be repaired. Without probably swapping out a whole. Who knows? Might have been in the axle. The way he got hit.
I was going to say,
the way that wheel was
Clint
like
wasn't wrong. The toe link was definitely broken. Clint was right about that. But I think the whole rest of the suspension was destroyed because the way that car or the way that tire was forced up inside of the wheel well, I mean, it was done. It's unfortunate, but yeah. So this just got clipped right at the last second, right on the tire. I mean, just
to do damage. And it's a racing deal to some extent. People were asking on TikTok ahead of time who we're going to throw under the bus. I don't know. Everybody wants to throw Brad under the bus. Kyle needs to know what's going on too. But both of them are, it's really weird. Somebody else commented, well, why wasn't he pitting with, well, actually, if you look at the video, his teammates were going another lap. So he was going another lap too. He was not pitting at this point. That's sort of why he was going where he was going. But the thing is these things happen to his right. So these are not cars that were coming to pit road, even though everybody seems to think they were. Yeah. Somebody either checked up in front of them and they saw it and they reacted to the checkup or something, but it was not two guys coming to pit road. I refuse to believe that, because if you look at where the accident happens, it happens on the track at where the entrance to pit road is. They would have had to make a 90-degree left-hand angle turn to get down to pit road from there. So I don't want to hear about that. But two guys definitely made mistakes, and it was unfortunate that it took two guys out. It took Ryan out. It took the 6 out. The 8 actually ends up having a day. He ends up fixing damage, getting back on the lead lap. He blew a tire at one point, but he's stay on the lead lap. They fixed whatever they needed to do so he wouldn't blow a tire. But
he ended up going on, and he actually rebounded at one point, and then later on gets a speeding penalty that totally derails the end of his race. But yeah, I mean, we never heard from the 8 driver because he kept going and then didn't finish in the top 10, so he didn't have any media obligations. The 6 driver said he got run over and was upset. Ryan, Ryan was as cordial as he usually is. He wasn't, excited about it, but, kind of like you said, just chalked it up to being something that happens. And I mean, he hit the hole. It was, he just got hit like just directly in the tire, really, and it's just
a foot or two further up the track, and he avoids it, he gets out of the car. Jamie Little is waiting for him as he gets out of the car, but also part of the policy, once the car's done, he has to go to the infield care center. So that's why it takes a little longer for them to do the interview on TV. But she was actually waiting there and trying to get some info, if she could at that point. The stage goes. I didn't even keep track of who won stage 1. I forget.
Larson.
Larson, that's right. Larson wins stage 1. We know who wins stage 2. That's the fun part. Is I start on the Max app, start changing channels, right? Watching other guys. So the next guy I start to watch is the 88. I want to hear Josh, and see how they do. Well, I tell you what, he drove like he had a pair. He was 3 wide up on the wall up to about 10th place at a couple different times before he makes his pit road error in stage 2. When there's green flag, he's amazing. He didn't hit anybody coming through there. That was quite a view.
I told you I described it like that Arca. I was like, it was like that Arca guy that he just came in hot. I was like, oh my God, he's going to plow into literally everybody, but he was able to juke and zig and zag and smoke the tires. But that was kind of scary.
So he has his issues and ends up having a green flag, do a drive through and so on and so forth. So I go ahead and go to find another channel, and I decided to watch Bubba Wallace at this point because we know he's going to run well. Love listening to him and his spotter. So at the end of stage 2, that's who I'm watching, and he wins the stage. Austin pushes him. And then my wife is on Twitter, right? And she's catching all these different bits. And she goes, what the heck did Logano? He just went crazy, on the radio. And was it Harvick that at one point, I think maybe it was Tim was telling us that Harvick at one point would quit pressing the button as he got older. Okay. Yeah. Joey Logano is old enough where he should just quit pressing the button, because he presses the button to tell the world basically, because he has to press a button to communicate, but he tells the world that what he thinks of Austin and his move there. And then if you catch what Austin said in car, he kind of said, well, I was trying to give him some space so he can make a move, and then I was trying not to wreck him. So, meaning the 22. So he was doing his teammate a favor in some ways. What other people don't see or don't realize is you've got 2 lanes they're pushing. You don't know what kind of push that the 2 had gotten at that point to push the 23 to the stage victory. So for Joey to be all like that, you gotta relax a little bit. I'm sure that they've already worked it out and hugged it out today. I saw some memes about the horseshoe thing about how Cindric was going to wear it to the meeting today, probably.
Yeah, it's just
Um,
unfortunate, and we've heard Ryan, get upset with Joey and get upset with Austin on the radio, but it pretty much stays there. I don't know that he's ever really gone that as far as Joey. I mean, Joey kept going over and over and over again, how much he disliked Mr.
this is
Cindric. So,
yeah,
but
this is where we need a Davey Siegel TikTok. Davey quit doing the TikToks, but can you imagine Davey going, "Oh frick,
yep.
frick"? He did
I,
that
I,
so
I,
well.
I only really saw like the replays of the stage finish just because where we were sitting, we couldn't exactly see the start finish line, just the way Talladega is set up. But my initial reaction to it was I thought that, and you'll see this at the end of races too. I thought the 2 was pushing the 23 hard to try and get him out as far as he possibly could. So then the 22 and him could make a move. They could hook up and try to get around
Yeah.
him. But I think the 22 wasn't really on board, and then the 23 covered the lane, and then it was over. So I mean, I don't know what. I mean, I think the 22 should have worried more about making sure he was. Again, I'm not an expert, but dragging the brake or whatever he needed to get back to his pusher. And I don't know who was behind him. We'd have to look at the video, but it just didn't work. I mean, it was only for a stage. I mean, Joey almost like you would think Joey's reaction was the win, right? Like I could see him being more upset if this was for the win, but man, it was just for a stage. I mean, it is what it is. I don't think the 2 would have done that for the race win. I think the 2 would have been a little bit smarter. And I actually heard a cool interview on my way home today with Noah Gregson, who was talking about the finish and how he had a Hendrick car like in front of him. And how he wanted to get make sure. I don't think the 60 was out in front of that top lane just yet, but he was actually slowing to not push the Hendrick car, so that way the 2 could keep control of the race. So it's like he already in his mind has that thought process about being a fellow Ford driver. So, and he actually said he slowed up and actually let the 60 get up in front of him and control both lanes. So there was a Ford controlling both lanes. So those guys are actually thinking about that stuff as it goes. If they don't think that and Noah said basically, I was too far back to be a factor in the win, but I could be a factor in who wins. So that was an interesting thing to hear. So
the third stage, the Toyotas pit earlier than everybody else, and they didn't get very organized coming off pit road to begin with, and then on top of that, the other group ran together longer in a bigger pack.
Yeah.
And after about 2 or 3 laps, they were going faster. So when everything assimilated back together after everybody's green flag stopped, the Toyotas ended up kind of back in the pack.
There was also a huge block. There was a huge block that Ross Chastain threw on the Toyota pack that destroyed their momentum.
Yeah.
So
momentum too, coming back when they came back together. Yes. Kind of interesting because I'm watching, like I said, I'm watching Bubba's at this point, and they're too wide, they're too wide. And you would think with a lap or 2 to go, it would start to get 3 wide, but it never really did. And then they come off for the final lap, they come off of 2, and there's a hole that opens up. And I'm watching Bubba, he's running 20th at this point, right? And this hole starts to open just a little bit, and the next thing you know, he puts the nose in it. And you can see cars kind of, they touched each other, but not enough to spin anybody out. But he put it up in there, and his spotter, it's going, go ahead, keep pushing it, go ahead, keep pushing it. He's like encouraging him, just go ahead, keep doing it. If they're going to keep doing it, keep doing it. And sure enough, it did. It opened up, and by the time he got to the start-finish line, he was 10th. And as we find out afterward, even better than that. But 10th at the finish. And I saw a picture of the car after the race, and the right rear was crushed. So somebody was running into him, obviously, right? But like once again, not enough to spin anybody out, crash anybody. But really kind of like a really gusto kind of move to put it up in there. So at least somebody was trying to do something from the back end. But like I said, I really would have loved to have seen a third row go somewhere and try to
the Bubba move was way too late. But they needed to start with like at least 5 laps to go. I would have liked to seen it earlier, but once it got to like 2 or 3 laps to go, I was like, they're just going to stay in these 2 lanes and that's it.
Yeah, it's almost like if like let's say Ryan was like running sixth or eighth, and you saw him pop out to the right, I guarantee you 2 or 3 guys would pop out behind him, because they know where he's going. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that maybe need to be coordinated too. Maybe you need to get 2 or 3 spotters on the stand up there and say, okay, my guy's running here, your guys running here. We're gonna pop out right now. Everybody follow. When you see my guy, you guys go. And see if you can get it together. But you got to kind of have some cooperation, and everybody's kind of like
I just think
themselves too up there.
the people in the back, like you got nothing to lose. If it runs, these 2 lanes the rest of the way, you're going to finish 25th. So you're going to finish there anyway. Why don't you and 3 or 4 other guys try to form a third lane? Some of the guys up front might jump out to there. Now, I do think if that happens, there would have been a crash. But I mean, I'm sitting there going, I'm like, will somebody just do something? Like just nothing.
If let's just say, you're running 12th or 13th or 14th, and 2 or 3 of you do that, and then within the back straight 4 or 5 you do that. Now all of a sudden, the 2 lanes with all the momentum, things start to change for them. They don't get as organized. There's little gaps and holes that have happened because you've bailed or other people have bailed, and it really would have made it a lot more of a jumbled finish, at least, than it was.
Yeah, I don't think anyone back there would have won. I think they could have maybe improved some position, and I know. And so the other things we can kind of discuss about in this race, one, I mean, just a lack of caution. So there's the caution for the Ryan Keselowski Busch crash, and then there is a caution for the Bell getting spun off of the nose of the 11, and then the 20 collecting the 17 on the way. But since the 20 driver seems to be fine, I will say now he knows how that feels, because he's done it to Ryan a couple of times. But man, that was
what's funny about that? That I'm now reminded of the pre-race. Like I don't watch a lot of pre-race, but we caught an interview with Bell, and he more or less said, "I hate this racing." He said it. He was like totally honest. He's like, "Yeah, I really don't really like this. Don't like it." And that was before the race started. Now he's got, the 11 spinning him off his nose. Whoever's fault that was. Denny won't take total blame for it. I'm sure his podcast will be, all the excuses or whatever he does. But yeah, so, but the two ends up winning, and, pretty nice job of controlling his line, getting his push that he needed to getting the victory. And then, what is it? Like 2 hours later, we get these violations, these cars getting DQ'd, and Ryan goes from 39th to 37th, and a couple guys.
So the 22 and the 60 both get disqualified for violations that have to do with the spoiler. So the 22 had a bolt missing, and the 60 car had had 3 shims in the spoiler instead of 2. And what the shims do is it actually changes the angle of the spoiler. So when you're going through pre-race inspection, NASCAR checks the angle of the spoiler with like this weighted device that just basically checks the angle. And I guess when they went through pre-race inspection, they actually clarified this. It wasn't hitting at the right angle, and a team member put another shim into that. So the shim is basically at the base of the spoiler, and the more shims that you kind of slide in there, it'll change the kind of the direction of it, the way it leans back or leans forward. I think if you take one away, it'll lean forward more. If you wedge another one down in there, it'll start to lean back more. So in pre-race inspection, they went and added a shim. Apparently, my question there is like, did none of the officials were like, hey, you already have 2? Because the rule is you can only have 2 shims. They added a 3rd. So that's a whole nother question that I only saw that a little bit right before we got on here. So I don't know if someone could clarify that. But now with the 22, the bolt was missing. These are very black and white rules in the rule book. The spoiler, and it's funny because because second week in a row, because Jesse Love in the Xfinity Series race got disqualified from a win last week at Rockingham. And all the comment sections on all the social media was, this is why NASCAR is dying. They won't let those guys, run what they brung. They blah, blah, blah. It used to be like that in the old days. And it's like, well, in the old days on Superspeedways, one of the main things that those teams were all messing with was the spoiler. They had mechanisms. Some of them had mechanical mechanisms where the driver would push a button when he went out for qualifying, and it would lay back, or they would just make it just physically be able to do that because of loose bolts or things. So That's
What
what they were doing, but
what they,
NASCAR
what they,
definitely watches it. So
what they say, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, right?
yeah, so
And
but that's
the thing is all the old time people that are complaining now about not letting them do these things are the same people who are always laughing and giggling about how they used to get away with all that stuff. So yeah,
yeah.
a rule's a rule. If
It's
you get
also the
caught, you
same
get caught.
people that complained during the Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus era of
Mhm.
being upset about whatever they were doing, trying to push the boundaries. How dare they do that? They need suspended. They need kicked out. And then they're probably the same people commenting today saying NASCAR's ruining it by enforcing their rules. I don't I don't know what to tell
Yeah,
you. Now Ryan
yeah,
got a DQ in his championship season briefly,
yeah,
and I remember our reaction to was originally was just, well, they didn't meet the inspection. I mean, what are we going to do?
yeah,
It did eventually come out that their template that they were using to check the shock and stuff was wrong, and they reversed the disqualification. But we did go through a few days of people saying that they were cheating, so that
yeah.
was annoying. But so unfortunate for the 22 because of his outburst and stuff. I don't really care. Whatever. The 60 I mentioned to you and some other people. I'm so thankful that the 60 did not win this race. He's never won a race yet. He's been trying for like the last, handful of years. He's been at two other cup teams before this. And if he would have, and he has this whole story of Superspeedway racing where he's flipped violently. Like for him
Yeah.
to conquer a Superspeedway for his first win would have been this huge, like feel good story. And then to have that ripped away would have been awful.
Awful.
So glad that didn't occur. But people were excited, and here's this misconception. People were really excited about Ryan picking up those 2 spots. And I heard the every point matters. They all got 1 point.
They all got 1 point. That's right. We've
Yeah,
discovered that. Yeah.
yeah. The way the points work, it's like 36 on back. All get 1
gets
point
one.
for their finish. So it didn't.
That's it.
He would have needed a few more DQs. So
Yeah.
that's
the
unfortunate.
Participation trophy.
I jumped the gun there when I was talking about caution. So we had
Yeah.
the Ryan caution was one of the 2 natural cautions, and then we had the caution for the 20.
Mhm.
Did you like that the way that the race was able to play out? This is what I did like. Now I mentioned this was bad because Ryan got caught up in the middle of one of these green flag pit cycles, but I think they're exciting. We got to see a lot of we got to see those green flag pit cycles actually play out. We got to see, I believe it was the longest green flag run to a finish at a super speedway race since like 2004 or something like that. It
The
was like a
longest,
long time ago.
yeah, the longest run to the end without a green white checker.
Yeah.
That whole thing. Yeah, which was incredible since 2004. That hasn't happened, and because that was the other thing. Like somebody was talking about, like how do we make these races better, more interesting, and they are what they are to some extent now. Everybody's doing the same thing. They're all in the same box. I think the only thing they really could do, make it better, is shorten up the first 2 stages a little bit and make the 3rd stage longer so that there has to be 2 pit stops in the 3rd stage. Because if you do that, now you really get some varying strategies. And can you imagine if the 3rd stage went green and everybody had to make 2 pit stops? You probably would have separated the field a little bit. You probably would have had a couple groups that messed up, and you might not have had a pack of 35 at the end. You might have had a pack of 14 or 16 and a second pack trying to catch them, and those kind of things. So I don't know. You probably had just more wrecks, right?
Yeah.
People
Well,
kinda
what I was thinking, yeah, I mean the best things that happen in these current super speedway races is when they get a caution early in the first 2 stages, because then it sets up to where everyone has fuel to run to the end of the
Yeah,
stage and they actually race.
right. They
So
race.
I would like that if they shorten them up enough to where they wouldn't have to pit at all. Now it means you wouldn't get green flag pitting in the first 2 stages, but you'd save that for the end. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, there might be some more crashes. Now, I mean, the one thing to say though that we found, and we discussed the way the finish was a little bit lackluster in that they just ran too wide.
Hmm.
They were running too wide because no one was saving fuel at that point, and everybody was
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, they're pushing
So that's why a
it.
3rd and 4th lane didn't generate itself. So maybe we would just end up with
Yeah.
that, and people being afraid to pull out and trying to make a pass on their own, because the way this car runs right now and the way the aerodynamic package is, they just can't make the moves on their own like they used to. So that was going to be kind of like that. My next thing was the fuel saving. While we did
Yeah.
see it, I heard several interviews post race on my way home today, specifically even Rudy Fugle from William Byron's team saying that the fuel saving at super speedways has actually evolved
Hmm.
from when they first figured out that the one of the most important things they could do is save fuel to get their pit stop times down. But they guess they've found out that they don't have to run as slow as they have in the past. So the pace of this race was actually was a lot faster than before. And then we also had the Toyota teams. The two times the Toyotas
Yeah.
kind of got up front, they pushed the
Push.
whole field.
Yeah.
Where when you saw Ryan and Joey in these past races would get out front and control the lanes, they would back the pace off way down.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
Toyotas
From
were
the
like,
front.
nope, we're gonna
Yeah.
go fast, and you
Mhm.
guys are
It's
gonna
like
race, and we're gonna have
everybody's
to
going to
do
fit.
pit. So
Yeah.
that
So
did you pointed out to me that bit them at the end because they did it again at the end, and the 11 and I think the 45 and a few other guys all bailed to the back of the pack because they didn't get enough. They had run so much and they didn't get enough fuel in that last stop that they were afraid they were going to run out. So
yeah. So
you can do that. You do have to make sure you can save. But do you like the fact that it's starting to evolve a little bit? They're still saving fuel, but it's like, is it better that they're maybe they before they were 50% throttle and now they're 75% throttle or something? Like it's
I
improved a little bit, but
know I pick on the fact that they're doing fuel savings. I always make that fun of that. But the one good thing about it is, like, we saw 4 wide for quite a few laps. 3 wide and 4 wide is still interesting to watch live and on TV. It's a lot more fun to watch because all it takes is a bobble, and then everything can go haywire.
it was
Now,
awesome.
right? Do we really want that? No, no, especially not if our guy's in the middle of it. But that adds the excitement, and it adds to the viewing of it. And TV wise, it's hard to screw up uh, covering it because usually with our number one criticism of Fox lately is they zoom in on one car or two cars and you don't see the action. You're not watching action. Well, when you put 38 of them 4 wide, it's hard to zoom in on one or two cars. You're going to see 20 cars in your shot, and and you're going to see if somebody wiggles, and you're going to see if something goes wrong, and so it'll make it, at least from a visual standpoint, interesting. Because there's danger, there's drama to it. Um, they proved yesterday, though, that they are all extremely very good race car drivers because really the cautions happened on a restart and
Yeah.
when people couldn't figure out if they're going to pit road or not. Had nothing to do with when they were 4 wide, all sliding up into the turn.
Yeah, I mean, I think people just have to realize that the 3 and 4 wide at Talladega is the new single file train that we used to see.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the big difference is we would get the single file train and then they would decide to race and then they could actually race and make moves. Now, maybe one or two guys, or like you
Yeah, there's
said,
only
Bubba taking advantage of a hole will make
right.
moves and be able to make moves. Ryan, when he's in these races, somehow is one of the few cars that can make it from mid pack to the front somehow. But not everybody can do it, and not everybody is confident. So that's still the biggest difference, is that at least when back, in that previous generation car, when they decided the race, they could race. Right now, they feel handcuffed. So that's unfortunate. But I told you, I would take, if we're in this world, I would take the 4 wide look over the single file lane any day.
Right. Yeah.
But I
'Cause that's
also
what they
mentioned
used
to
to
you, but in no way do I think this racing is better than it used to be. So I don't have my glasses are not that rose colored
No,
when
the
it comes
runs
to
used to
that.
come a lot faster and harder and slammed into each other a little bit more and was a lot more dangerous. So yeah, it's definitely, you know. So the weekend, points wise, yeah.
Yeah. So Ryan, taking a look at the NASCAR Cup Series point standings, Ryan did drop 2 positions after finishing 37th and only gaining 1 point on the weekend.
Yeah.
So he's in the 8th position now. The big thing to note is this is the first time all year long that he has now dropped more than 100 points behind the leader. He's 113 points back of Byron in first. Kyle Larson, who had a great weekend, winning a stage and finishing second after the DQs, is up 2 spots to second, 31 back. Hamlin is in third. Elliott is in fourth. Christopher Bell dropped a little bit after his crash to fifth. Reddick is sixth. Bubba Wallace is seventh. Bubba is like we've talked about this almost every week. He's running up front. He's getting stage points. He won a stage. Like, this is how they're chipping away at it. I actually went and looked at his stats earlier today just to see what they're doing. And his finishes aren't all great. They're kind of some of them are good, some of them are a little bit average, but he's been scoring these stage points. It's like seems to be their philosophy, and that's keeping them up in the points. Again, Ryan is 8th, Bowman is 9th, and Ross Chastain rounds out the top 10 right now. So 10th with Chastain is 143 points back the leader, and Joey Logano has fallen out of the top 10 for the first time in a while to 11th position. He's actually minus 143 as well, but I believe Chastain holds the tiebreaker with a better finish on the year.
I looked up Cindric in the owner's points, because owner's points is different than the individual. And the owner's points, he would be 10th. So if you take away his penalty, he'd be in the top 10 right now with a victory. So he's got 6 points for the playoffs still too, which is
Yeah, and then overall standings, driver standings for Cindric, he's up 8 positions after the win. To the 14th spot, 170 points back of the leader. You mentioned Cindric winning the race. We didn't talk that much about it. All I will say, it was weird for me. I was never really a huge Austin Cindric fan. He's had some of the issues, with that. I'm still salty about the Daytona 500 and Ryan and things like that. And I felt weird because I said to you, as soon as he won yesterday, I'm like, he deserved that victory. Not even necessarily for everything he did yesterday, for his body of work over probably the last 5 or 6 Superspeedway races. He could have won the Daytona 500. He could have won at Atlanta. He's up front. He's leading laps, much like the 12 normally would, but the 12's been caught up in some incidents along the way. So at these types of tracks, at least, he's struggling everywhere else still. He absolutely deserved that win yesterday, and I was happy for him. Definitely very weird that the 21 and the 2 are the first out of the Penske and quasi Penske stables to pick up victories this year. So Ryan and Joey have some work to do, but luckily at least the 12 has shown up fast every week. And it's one of those, we keep saying, if they bring fast cars, if they qualify up front, you'll have an opportunity to win. So hopefully that's coming.
I don't know if I want to talk fantasy or not. Do you want to talk fantasy real quick? Get it over with?
We'll do fantasy real quick, but it was bad. And I know you had a rough day as well, but I'll go through my starting lineup. And I actually set my lineup midweek just because I wasn't sure what the Wi-Fi situation, everything was going to be when I was on the road. So this was all done pre-qualifying. The only swap that I made, I think, was during our live on Wednesday. I think I added Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to my lineup. Yeah. And that, of all the things that I did, that was good. So my starters, Brad Keselowski got me 1 point. Austin Cindric got me 48, the winner. Michael McDowell was a bit of a disappointment. He was up front a little bit, and I think he ended up with an okay finish at the end, 27 points. Chris Buescher was in position and up front to make a good run toward the end of the race, got crashed out, 3 points. Stenhouse got me 33, and I had Ryan in the garage, never made any swap there. He only ended up with that 1 point. Featured matchups, I picked Cindric over Bowman. That was right. I picked Chastain over Larson. That was wrong. I picked Logano over Busch. That was wrong. I picked Austin Dillon over Gregson. That was wrong. So 1 out of 4 featured matchups, 122 total points, and I was like 47th overall on the week, which honestly isn't that bad. I think everybody had a lot of trouble. So
yeah, I had
what was your lineup like?
Yeah, I had Kyle Busch, was only worth 10 points. I had the 21, was worth 14. I had the 17, worth 3 points. I had the 54, who was worth 20. I had Ryan in the lineup, took him out when everything happened. And then I had Austin Cindric, so I did get 48 points, and he's the only thing that saved my whole day. In the matchups, I had Cindric. So that was 10 extra there. I had Chastain, and he got beat by Larson. I had Kyle Busch, and he did end up beating Joey as the points thing got shifted when when the disqualification happened. So I got 10 out of a disqualification, thankfully. Then I had the 3 car over the 4, and I lost that one. So I had a total of 105 points
I
for
think
good for 66.
Yeah, 66
Yeah,
overall, right? So I beat you.
yeah.
There's something. There's
Woo!
the bright
Yes.
spot of the
And
week.
this is what, like I said last week, I says this is one of those races they had to give you like 3 garage guys and there wasn't even a big one. That's the funny part is there wasn't
There
a big
wasn't.
one.
No.
But look at my guys. I had the 8 car, I had the 17 car, I had the 12 car as 3 of my 6 guys. And they were guys that were out or damaged or done.
So let's take a look at the top 10 in points earned this week in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. In a 4-way tie for 10th, we have Al 12 Fan, hashtag LGM, Nellis Straightaway, and Big Burn at 173 points. In 9th, it's Glitterbugs, 175. In 8th, it's Alex Ortega, 188. We have a tie for 6th with Math Mom 4 and Vans 12 at 189. 5th is DT Daytona 12, 190. And 4th is MRK 1400, 195 points earned. And 3rd is Shar 12 Fan, 199. 2nd is YRB Believers, 212 points. And our friend Jordan Daniels wins the weekend just by a few points here, 215 points earned for the first position in the win at Talladega. Let's take a look at the overall standings. I am in the 45th position, 1,718 points. You're still doing okay. 13th overall, Mez 12, 1,852. In 10th, Fike 21, 1,875. In 9th, the Daisy Dukes, 1,880. In 8th, Montana 12 Fan, 1,882. 7th is our friend Dr. Race Chaser, 1,889. 6th is Belaniacal, 1,905 points. 5th is Pit Stop Pro, 1,912. 4th, Alyssa C, 1,937 points. 3rd is Vans 12, 1,994. 2nd, Go 12 Go, 1,995 points. And Jordan Daniels has assumed the overall lead in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League with 2,013 points on the year. So that pretty much wraps up the full recap of the race weekend at Talladega Superspeedway when it comes to on-track activities.
Right.
But as a fan base and some of the folks that follow us here on TikTok and on Facebook and YouTube Live, we got to meet up on Saturday ahead of the NASCAR Xfinity Series race. Ryan, and he does this from time to time in the different race markets, had a meet and greet at the Advanced Auto Parts in Pell City, Alabama. So about a few of us and 100 or so others of our fellow Ryan Blaney fans all made the trek over there about 20 minutes from the racetrack to go to that meet and greet, get some photos and get some autographs, have some really great conversations while we waited 3 or 4 hours in line ahead of time. Kind of camped out there, but it was kind of fun. The Advanced Auto Parts folks were all there. There's a radio station out there. There's like a video game truck. They had food. They were coming around bringing out hot dogs and water and soda and everything for everybody. So that was a good time. We got to meet up. I'll show some photos here with as I mentioned, some of our friends here. They're on the live right now. Chelsea and Justin. You can see a whole line of other folks that was wrapping back and around the building. My wife Tara's there, and I am there. I was sporting my new Dave Blaney Haas Avocados shirt that I made on one of my off days last week ahead of the race. So that was kind of fun. So this is kind of cool. They gave us these little VIP pass things ahead of the meet and greet. So another little memento to keep along the way. What I brought with me to this, and I mentioned last week or on our live, I think on Wednesday, I'm not a super big autograph guy, but I have this Dex Imaging quarter panel behind me that I was able to procure, and I was excited to get that signed. And so that's what I brought for me. Got the photo there with Ryan at the meet and greet. He signed it real nice and big there on the quarter panel. Nice and clear Ryan Blaney autograph. So that was nice to see. Got to catch up with him a little bit, put a bug in him and his people's ear about coming on for a third interview at some point this season. Would be fun. And so that was a nice experience. Ryan always takes, a good amount of time with the fans that he meets with. Got to see, him interact with some other people and get some photos. And he makes it a real kind of personable experience. And I think that's nice, maybe compared to some other guys that kind of do it assembly line.
Well,
But
what's nice about this situation? It's not at the track. It's on a day where he's done for the day.
yep,
So
that's true.
when you can get those kind of meet and greets where there's nothing else scheduled in his day, you get him where he's got nowhere to be, nothing to do. Just like the charity event I went to back in late January.
Yeah.
That was an event, and he was there for that event. So he, like you said, very present and very much giving of his time. And he acts. He said this before. I think he said it to us before, actually, where he likes to treat every person he meets like it's the first time he's met them.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he said that just before, where so he does a very good job of that. And I was excited not only that you got this autograph, because you're not really an autograph hunter per se, but the next thing that you're going to show us. I was really excited to see what happened with this.
So we did talk about this a little bit ahead of, I think even on past shows, on our live that we did on Wednesday. You can look at some more photos of this that are a little bit more up close on our Facebook page. I think there's a video, and then there's also just the still images. So that's my wife Tara there holding what she considers to be a family heirloom passed down from her late uncle, who was a huge Blaney fan. So this is kind of something that her aunt, said that it was something that he wanted her to have, and it's really cool. It's an old, cooler that her uncle took to the races. He went to Michigan, Watkins Glen, and his favorite track probably was Bristol. Lots of stories from there that he would tell us about. So I mentioned to you, it's like the races and things that cooler has seen. I can't even begin to imagine. Coolest part about it is that ahead of this meet and greet, in the top left corner as you're looking at it is Dale Blaney's autograph, Ryan's uncle. Top right is Dave Blaney's autograph, Ryan's dad. Bottom left, real big, is Lou Blaney's autograph. Ryan's grandfather, also like Dave and Dale, is a National Sprint Car Hall of Famer. Also won a ton of modified races later in his career. So awesome piece. And the only thing we were missing was Ryan's autograph over there in the corner. So Ryan signed it. Tara told him the story about where it came from. Ryan, I think, was kind of floored by it. He picked it up. He's looking at it close. He gets his phone out of his pocket. He takes a picture of it. He's talking about his signature compared to their signatures, and then talking about his dad's and how they both do the Y at the end of their names very similarly. And then he just picks it up and looks at it close again to look at Lou's autograph. And he said he's like, I don't really ever see any of this up close, like in person before. So that's why I kind of got that snapshot of it. So it was awesome. My wife thought it was really cool. And we have a video of that interaction that at some point I might edit and post to our social media channel, so you can kind of see him interacting with it. I thought it was like such a weird piece. It's like, here's a cooler, but the history behind it is cool. I mean, even that sticker that's on there is like from a 1980s Michigan race, and it's weathered and worn. You can kind of see on the flip side of this cooler is like a big skull bandit sticker. So I think my uncle, or Tara's uncle, was also like a Harry Gant fan too. So that was kind of cool. That was stuck on the back of that thing. So it was a really great moment. Got this really great photo to kind of go with it. And whenever at some point I'm going to redo the background here in my studio office and try to think of a good way to display this going forward in the quarter panel and the Dex car that I got signed as well. So. But that was definitely the highlight of the weekend. It made for the whole trip. So regardless of what happened with the race, just the fact that we could have that interaction, kind of show Ryan a piece of history, meet up again with our nice little group of Blaney fan friends here in the line, yes, and have a good time. It was a great weekend overall at Talladega.
Yeah, Ryan hurried up and took a picture of it, right?
Yep.
I mean, just like I said, that I'm guarantee you that everybody in the family got to see that after he took that picture and had a chance to send it out, because that's something there. And somebody else online had said they have something with all three autographs on it, not including Ryan's. And I thought man, hurry up and get to a race. Because that's really, really cool to have Lou's autograph. I'm sure, when he was racing, for the most part, there were some autograph things going on, but not to the extent that they do things today. So, to have some with his autograph on it, and then to be able to put, Ryan next to it, that's really incredible.
Yeah, I only have one other Lou Blaney autograph. I think I have shared it on our social accounts before. It's a program from Sharon Speedway from when I was young and I was working there, and they had an autograph night. So I kind of keep that tucked away. But yeah, this one, it's just the size of it that's on there at the bottom of that is just kind of amazing. It's the biggest autograph on the whole thing. Super clear. And I think that's why Ryan kind of took the time to study it and take a look at that. So that was cool. So thanks everybody that made that, the weekend happen. The folks at Advanced Auto Parts and Ryan for taking the time to meet everybody that showed up there bright and early on a Saturday, and waiting for him to basically finish qualifying and head over from the track. It was great to see everybody. So that wraps up everything from the race to fantasy to the weekend kind of recap. So that takes us now to the next race. So we have this started a 28 race straight streak for the NASCAR Cup Series. Apparently the longest consecutive streak of races in the series history, where we are also, except for me, I take vacation sometimes. We'll have 20, including this one, 28 straight podcasts coming up for you as well. Mm-hmm. And the next race that we are heading to this weekend is at everyone's favorite 1.5-mile track, Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth. And things are going to kick off on Friday. Earlier in the day, you have practice for the NASCAR Xfinity Series and Craftsman Truck Series, but there is racing action at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, SpeedyCash.com 250 at, again, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can watch it on FS1, listen to it on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. That's this Friday, May 2nd. Then Saturday, May 3rd, you have the NASCAR Cup Series practice at Texas at 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time on Prime. Again, streaming only on Prime. They have had it recently where I think Prime has like a YouTube channel and they'll stream just practice for free. But I think it shuts off when it goes to actual qualifying. So check that out. If you don't have Prime, you might be able to at least watch practice. 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time from Texas. Then at just afternoon, 12:10 p.m., you have qualifying for the NASCAR Cup Series on Prime again. 2 p.m. Eastern Time, you have the Andes Frozen Custard 300 for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. That is on the CW and on PRN and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. And then Sunday, May 4th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you have the Worth 400 at Texas Motor Speedway on FS1, streaming in-car cameras on Max, on PRN on the radio, and SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. We do know that Ryan will not be, we thought maybe he would be in the Worth car for the Worth 400, but there was a release earlier that shows Josh Berry is actually going to be running the Worth paint scheme.
Ryan Menard's Knopf installation one. I beat everybody to the first Worth joke of the week, by the way. I'm telling you that right now. If you go to Instagram, Worth posted something on Instagram about the race this week, and I second comment on there right away. I put it down. I said it's worth the wait, and then in parentheses I put, "Sorry, I had to do it." So, and they've already liked the comment too, by the way, just so you know. But I'm sure that they don't mind that all week long. Any interaction, they are one of the more fun ones. If you go, especially Instagram, and you interact with them, they love it. They love to see that their activation is going someplace, and especially with sponsoring a race, because that's a big deal. They got to pay for some things when they're sponsoring the race. So, if you get a chance to, and you see them post some stuff this week, go ahead and interact with the post. Let them know you love it. The fact that it's on the 21 car should be interesting to see what they do with the paint scheme. I doubt it will look exactly the same as what Ryan runs. Probably not. It would be a little bit different, but it'd be cool to see. And, we can see if we can get Menard some back-to-back wins this week.
That's true. So Ryan Blaney at Texas Motor Speedway, 16 career starts, 449 laps led. He has an average start of 9.8, an average finish of 17.4. No points wins, 4 top 5s, 8 top 10s, does have 4 DNFs there. A couple right to start out his career in 2015, one in 2019, and then he was caught up in a crash in the race in 2023. He also was caught up in an incident in this race last year as well and fell several laps behind. So the last 2 finishes at Texas, 28th and 33rd, those are kind of rough. Prior to that, though, starting back in 2019, 8th, 7th, 4th, 6th, 4th. So he's had 2 bad races where he's been caught up in incidents in both of those, one of them being a DNF in 2023. So prior to that, though, they were heading in definitely the right direction. It's just a string of top 10 finishes there. So he's run really strong. 2022 as well. They won the All-Star race in the Ryan's first season with crew chief, now championship winning crew chief Jonathan Hassler. So that was the highlight of the 2022 season, where they went winless in points races, but they did pick up that big time All-Star victory. That's a great, career highlight for Ryan going forward. So, and in as with many Ryan Blaney victories came with its own set of drama, where
fun stuff.
One of the most untimely cautions fell a millisecond before he took the checkered flag, and he drops his window net, and somehow, some way, is able to get the window net in a secure looking position, and they let him restart because I think they felt so bad, and he held off Denny Hamlin, a very salty Denny Hamlin, to win the race after, because Denny thought that Ryan should have been black flagged and sent down pit road, and oh well, sorry Denny. Denny. Ryan's also gone to victory lane there, I believe, in the NASCAR Xfinity Series as well. So has a great history at that track. Again, great average starting position of 9.8, but those DNFs have drug his average finish down for sure. Specifically, very early in his career, when he ran for the Wood Brothers, he had some really rough finishes right out of the gate. And in those last 2 races, 28th and 33rd. So they can definitely improve. They do only go to Texas once a year now. They've been doing that since the 2021 season. So that's a different thing. It's in, relatively early in the year as well. I have heard that weather for the weekend so far is not looking too terribly great.
Chances of showers, but it's like the first thing I saw was Sunday morning. And then that's in clearing up for the day. So you know what? That's fine. Kind of sucks on the matrix ends of things, because now we know how the practice and qualifying things, and you end up at the other end of the field. So that's not going to be good for qualifying. But we know what he can do in a mile and a half, and that's the best thing to be excited about. Is as long as he can stay out of other people's problems again, because that's another part about it. If it was self-inflicted wounds, it'd be one thing. But anytime this stuff has been happening, it's been somebody else decides they're going to do something stupid, and it seems to happen right near him. And it's just like please, let's just get around the dumb people who are making their mistakes and get to the top 10 and do our thing. Because we know what happens once he gets there. It can log some laps, They're the fastest car. He's the fastest driver. Fastest forward on the track every week.
Yeah, I honestly think, that victory that's coming this year is going to come on a mile and a half track. They've been super fast unloading at every single one of those. Again, for me, the goal for the weekend is to qualify in the top 10. If not, as close to the top 10 as possible, then move your way forward. They need to keep getting, because of these DNFs this year that have been killing them, they need to get as many stage points as possible, stage victories, and they obviously need to get the monkey off their back and go to victory lane overall. We did our fantasy recap earlier for looking at maybe some fantasy favorites to go into the weekend with. I'll read down the top 10 in this race last year. It was Chase Elliott's lone victory of the 2024 season. Brad Keselowski was second, William Byron in third, Tyler Reddick fourth, Daniel Suarez with a good run in fifth, Briscoe sixth, Bubba Wallace seventh, Austin Dillon eighth, Kyle Busch ninth, Carson Hocevar 10th. I think there's a few names in there like Suarez and Dillon and Kyle Busch that Brad Keselowski, who, my gosh, buried 30 plus in points right now. I'm not confident that he will repeat, a P2 finish when it comes to this. So things could get shaken up here. You mentioned Blaney. Ideally, if they execute, this is going to be the first test of this new updated pit crew lineup was really just one new member on the front tire changer.
Yeah.
So that'll be their real, because they really didn't do much work at all at Talladega. So this will be a little bit different for them. That's going to be the true test of this lineup to see what they can do, their first crack at it. So Ryan, I think if they can execute all day, they have decent pit stops and they have the speed, I think he should finish at least top 10. Anybody else that you're looking at, especially when it comes to maybe setting a fantasy lineup that you would, I know you always say you're going to wait till practice and qualifying,
practice and qualifying because I'm always worried about stage points. The guys are up front if the race stays green, it settles out. They have green flag pit stops. Certain guys are going to stay in the top 10, but the 2311 racing group as a whole shows huge speed at the 1.5 miles. So, Reddick or Bubba. And really, truthfully, Riley's probably going to come in with a little more confidence, too. He ran really well at Talladega, and he's going to have to start showing what he can do with the equipment here soon. So those guys, Larson is always Larson. Ryan is our top Ford guy no matter what. And, maybe this is a point in time where Logano, puts up now, too, instead of being vocal, and actually just does something. So.
And honestly, when it comes to Joey, when he does face adversity and things like that, again, we're talking about a 3-time champion. You can think of what you want about him, especially in the car, on the radio, whatever. Yeah. But the results speak for themselves. I mean, I'm, again, not like a super big fan of Joey, but the guy is an incredible race car driver. Totally selfish race car driver, but a really great, incredible race car driver. And I think he thrives on moments like this. He also has an amazing crew chief in Paul Wolf that if there is any opportunities for strategies, they will definitely take advantage of it. So I would not be shocked if you saw the 22 go to victory lane as well, because again, they're going to come there with the same Penske speed, at least base setup wise, that Ryan has. But we have seen, though, Jonathan Hassler knows either just how to adjust on the car better than maybe the rest of the teammates, because they've definitely been the fastest of the bunch. They just they've been tripped up on maybe execution, and then also just these mechanical failures and luck. I know sometimes people say that you make your own luck, but honestly, after the things that have happened this year, what happened in this past race at Talladega, I don't want to buy into it, but man, if we could buy some, let me know. I'll invest because we need it for sure. Again, if you want to catch the race this weekend, things kick off for the Cup Series on Saturday, 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time. We have practice on Prime. Qualifying is just after noon, also on Prime, and then the race is on Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The NASCAR Cup Series Worth 400 from Texas Motor Speedway. Back on cable again, FS1 Max, if you have the in-car cameras, and SiriusXM PRN on the radio. I think that pretty much wraps up this episode of the Team Blaney podcast. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you're listening to the audio version, if you're watching on Facebook, Live, YouTube, or over on TikTok, thank you for joining us. During the week and on race day, you can find us on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search for Team Blaney. We'd also like to encourage you to support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Ryan's official charitable organization benefits brain health causes like UPMC Sports Medicine and the Alzheimer's Association. To learn more, visit ryanblaneyfamilyfoundation.org or follow them as well on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
On Wednesday or Thursday, we've been popping on and doing a little live, so kind of keep an eye out for that. Maybe we'll have something else to talk about. Maybe we just want to get out there and kind of get our anxiety out waiting for another weekend to start. And then on Sundays, I tried to do it again this past Sunday, and I'll try to do it, on Sundays when we're home here, maybe about an hour before the actual start of the race, somewhere in that range. Do a little live pre-race show right here on our TikTok and our Facebook and YouTube channel. So
sounds great. So for my co-host Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time here on the Team Blaney podcast.
Good night, Albuquerque. Check out